Britny Virginia is a South London-based poet and freelance writer. She was born in Saint Lucia, Rixed in the United States, and migrated to England nearly 10 years ago. Her writing is greatly influenced by these three cultures, namely a Saint Lucan heritage. Britney enjoys playing with assimilation, the construction and form of language in words, and how this reflects emotion, which also reflects her life as someone living with a type of cerebral palsy called spastic diplegia. This affects her motor function through the tightness of her muscles. Writing often addresses the ups and downs of living with a disability and how she finds strength through her relationship with God. Britney is passionate about storytelling and using storytelling as a tool for freedom and breakthrough. She has a BA in creative writing from the University of Essex and is excited to share talent with the world. She hopes to bring change one story at a time. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have on the show today Britny Virginia. How are you doing, Britney?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Peter. I'm really excited.
Absolutely, I'm excited as well, and it's so wholesome to have you on the show today.
Yeah.
So, Brittany, could you tell us about your book, So I Will Stay Sitting with You? How does this book come about? What inspired you to write So I Will Stay with You?
Inspired me to write during the pandemic when everyone is inside, we were in lockdown. I already had a few poems from, my time in university, and I was like, I need to do something with these poems. And
Mm,
I felt a strong urge to just start like building on those poems that I already had, and about my journey and really exploring more about my journey with anxiety and things that I was struggling with as a young creative, as a young writer, as a young Black disabled woman as well. So that's really what was it, and I think that for me, I know that drawing and that urge was from God leading me to finish writing. Because I think if I didn't, I would just be, yeah, I would just stay stagnant and not have the boldness and the courage to put these things out there.
mm,
And I felt like if I open up my heart and be as raw as possible, then other people could be able to relate and connect and hopefully find freedom and joy, but also like connection as well, that they're not alone in the
mm.
struggle as well. So yeah.
Wow, that's quite nice to know. I love your stand and I love the inspiration behind the making of the book. And I also love to
Yeah.
ask you, in case of readers who haven't read the book yet, and of course, without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what you would expect picking up So I Will Stay Sitting with You?
As in read something from the book.
Absolutely, you can do that.
As um okay. This is poem number 10. It's a really short poem. So tally, tally facum. The word was so hard to word, it slipped my tongue in two. It struck out to me and pierced my soul like the wail of a newborn babe on its way home into its mother's bosom. An oracle of true allegiance, its suckling life onto this parched land. It called out to me as deep calls deep, and deeply I sunk into its revelation of me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. I love the sound of that.
Yeah. So talificum is a aromatic aromatic word. It just means to rise and get up. Um, and then the poem was just talking about how like feeling of when God is telling you to do something bold and courageous, and how it's a bit it's not something you're used to, but you kind of have
Yeah.
to branch out and just take the leap of faith, and just accept the call on your life, kind of thing.
Just great, just quite amazing. And I'm quite familiar with the word Talita Kumi, as a
Oh,
Christian.
you are?
And yeah, I'm
Okay.
sure. Really, that's quite nice to know. And now, I also love to
Yeah.
ask you, Brittany, as authors, we all have different ways of reacting to feedbacks and criticism of our works. I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative reviews of your books if you've ever had one in time past?
I accept criticism. I think as authors and writers or even creative people,
Yeah,
I think even people in general, I think of how you can be better is so important because if you always have someone telling you you're great all the time, you will never improve. I do think there's a way to deliver feedback and there's
yeah,
a way to be respectful in that because sometimes if you're just like, oh yeah, that's rubbish, that's bad, it's like okay, but what do you suggest I do? How do you suggest I improve it? If you only have something bad to say, but you have no kind of guidance for me on how to better myself, then your feedback doesn't really is not useful to me at all.
absolutely.
Um, and I do think sometimes some people, if all they know is just like I'm just gonna say whatever I think in that moment, those are the same people that it's hard for them to receive criticism
Mm,
because they think they're so perfect, you know? So that's why
yeah,
they can't criticize people all the time. But I do think it's so imperative to have feedback on how to improve your work. And not to take it, I think learning as a creative person, because sometimes I think as authors or writers or creative people, we can be so sensitive, but trying
yeah,
our best to kind of have a tougher skin, you know, and say, okay, I can just take it as a grain of salt. And during my
mm,
writing process, there was this I don't know if you've come across this quote. It's kill your little lovelies or your little
mm,
darlings. I forgot which author said that quote, but
it,
basically just okay. So yeah, and it just means that the thing sometimes a piece of writing that you've written is like, oh, this is so there and this is so amazing, it's so there and there to me, but actually does it really suit the purpose of your book or the story or the character
yeah,
that you're creating? Sometimes we have to let go, and I think having that mindset that okay, um I will receive what someone has to say. And not all criticism is needed for your work. Sometimes somebody is just
absolutely.
an opinion. So you
Yeah,
have to remember that as well, like what someone opinion is. I know one of my poems, so one of my editors, she she was opposed to one of the words I used for one of my poems. So in poem number three, I said, I am no longer a prisoner ashamed, but now a patriarch of the gospel. Now I knew that would be uncomfortable for some people because of the climate that we're living in, and what sometimes that words
yeah,
connotes, yeah. And I was just like, I like it. I like that word for this. I wanted to do it for a reason. I wanted to, push the boundaries of what our
intentional.
thinking process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, our understanding of this word a little bit more. So I kept it in. But other criticism, other advice that she had for me, I did take it on board, like different things throughout the whole book. So yeah.
Yeah, I love your take on criticism. And even as a writer, I realize that not every criticism are meant to be taken. There are some we just have to look away, and there are others we have to evaluate to see if this is really
Yeah.
in line with what you're trying to communicate or not, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Think I'm also curious to know if you experienced any challenges in the process of writing the book. If there is any, could you share with us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
I know like poetry is not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. And trying to remember who my target audience is, someone who would appreciate poetry, and the style. But also those who, if you're new to poetry, that you could also like it's easy to digest, it's easy to receive. I didn't want to make
Hmm.
it too difficult for people to
Yeah.
read. Um and then another thing was like one of the poems I have, it's a call and response poem. So
Oh,
I
like
think
a
it's poem
song.
number. No, I do have a song in there. That's number five, and I'll go into that actually. But a call and response is when it's like another voice. So I'm speaking my voice, and then I'm writing as if God's speaking into to what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So that's poem number six. Grace and Mercy Found Me. And when I wrote this like when I was at uni a long time ago, and I really had to kind of edit it down and see how I could structure it so someone would understand that this is
Mm.
two different voices in this
Oh.
poem. So the only thing I could think of doing was making it italic. So God's voice would be in italics in the book itself. And then I don't know
Oh.
if you guys can see. Probably not, you can't see. Anyway, so yeah, God's voice would be in italics and then my own voice would be um in standard
Yeah,
text.
the numbers
Um
test.
yeah, so that was something difficult because every time I felt like, okay, thinking of where if I'm having a poem with two voices, like making sure that a reader would see, okay, there's a difference here. Why is there a
Wow.
difference? Okay, it must be a different voice now speaking.
Wow.
So I hope that was clear. And if you're
Yeah.
taking your time, I think you would realize that.
Mm.
Another challenge that I encountered during writing was I don't even remember how the number five, poem number five, that was a whole different structure. And I can't, it had the same essence of it, like talking about the lack of courage and strength and stuff. But I had to literally break it completely down because I was like, I knew in that moment, I was like, my reader will not get, I think it was too abstract in the
Oh.
moment, yeah, previously. And I said, this would not, yeah, someone would not be able to really process this as I would like them to. Um, and literally it felt like breaking down the entire building and then restructuring it again and putting
Mm.
it back up again. And then that's the entire poem, what it's meant to represent as well. It's like this breaking down and then coming and building up again. So
Mm.
I do hope that when you're someone reads that poem, they feel that um they feel that
Reading.
process of being broken down and then but coming back up. Yeah.
Wow. I love the sound of this actually. And I love the sound of your poetry. They really made for an interesting discussion. I love the sound of
Yeah,
it.
thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome. Now, apart from So, I will stay sitting with you. Do you have any other works you've authored or maybe currently working on?
No, I don't have any works that I've authored, but I am working on my second volume of poetry. And which is why I published this poem in 2020. And also just under just I guess not I don't know if you ever encountered this, Peter, you can let me know, but that journey of really believing in your own work and pushing it like to the extreme because you believe in the power
Yeah,
of this thing that you've created.
absolutely.
And I had to go on that journey to actually rediscovering the power and the beauty of this
Mm,
written work that I created. And now definitely this year I'm like, no, I'm gonna push this more. And then pushing it more, pushing this book more will not only I'm hoping really connect with many, many different people, especially different churches as well, faith groups, young people, even older people can connect to my journey. But then it will lead people to like, oh yeah, when's next one? So that's when I'm writing my next volume of poetry, which is delving into more of my own experience as well with, relationships and with friendships um and just being just womanhood and that journey of
mm.
being a girl to now a woman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I'm really looking forward to getting out, but I'm looking forward to having working for a publisher, not self-publishing this one. So yeah. And then I'm
Wow.
also doing I'm writing my first full-length play. So I
Wow.
got I don't know if you heard of Arts Council England.
Yeah, Art Council of England. I know about them.
Yeah, yeah. So they um granted me the DYCP, Develop Your Creative Practice.
Wow.
So I got a commission to be able to basically write this play and also travel to St. Lucia to connect with the disabled community and just understand more about perceptions of disability back home.
Mm.
And I did that during the summer. So now I'm just finalizing writing the play, and I'm also working with another organization who's helping me like structure it a bit more. And that's quite challenging because
Wow.
it's a whole different medium from poetry to,
Play.
playwriting. And even if you have some poetic
Absolutely.
language in there, like it's a
Mm,
whole different ball, get a ball feel. So
wow.
I'm on that journey, and still on that journey of like, no, my work, what I've written is beautiful. Like I have to really believe in my writing,
Mm,
and what I create as well. So yeah,
wow, that's quite amazing to know. And that's such an amazing project you've got going. I love the sound of
yeah.
it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very great. Now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered ever since it got published?
Yeah, I mean formatting your work for the exact like page structure, whatever it is, it was difficult to understand. But I got it in the end. But that was, I think, like my most difficult process. Um, and then I created, so with my cover picture, my
Yeah,
two friends that I have, they're graphic designers, so they created this beautiful image in the
beautiful.
front.
Love it.
And we also did one for the back, but I could
Oh.
not get the exact formatting for the back, and I just had to on Amazon. So I just had to like, yeah, I just had to publish it without the back, which was quite disappointing. But I was like, you know what, it's okay. Yeah.
That's quite nice to
And also, I
know.
think self-publishing. Yeah. I think also self-publishing as well, just keeping in mind your royalties. And yeah, so how much the book is gonna cost, printing. Obviously,
Yeah,
Amazon is gonna take their percentage as well, and then you're left with
absolutely.
your royalties. So initially, the price was quite cheaper, on Amazon, and because I wanted to keep it quite affordable for people.
Mm.
But then because of the yeah, I did color print for the book
Oh,
because I had a picture inside of
in there.
a picture of myself inside, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I want it to be different. But that takes a lot of your um the cost of the book. I was like, the printing cost. I was like, you know what? I have to increase the price. One,
Oh,
it's already a great story anyway. It's a great journey. So I need to believe in my work, like price it as you believe it should be priced. Also looking at the marketplace as well, looking at other poets and what their rates are going at.
mm.
So I saw there was a variety, but I was like, okay, I think this is where I can land on. And then keeping that in mind, then I was able to like say, okay, yeah, this is my royalties, and I'm happy with this amount for my royalties.
Wow.
Which a lot of people don't they don't see all of that. They're just like, oh yeah, this price. Oh, that's a lot. But it's like actually
Mm.
what you actually get is yeah. So
That's true. Well, that's actually true. And I love your little illustration on that. At least it helps to clarify and shed more light on it. Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, I'd also love to ask you, Brittany, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book? What would you advise people in this category?
I think I would say try to connect with other self-published authors. Um I think in this industry, especially because I also work in theater, and film. So I should probably shout out my short film Dancing Shoes that's gonna come out next year. So keep a
Wow.
look out for that. But
Congratulations.
yeah, connecting with other people, yeah, other authors is like I think one of your go-to. And I know some people are quite nervous, or I don't want to reach out. Maybe I'm bothering someone. Most of the times you're not. It's not seen as that you're not bothering them. And even if you are, that just means that that's just not the person for you. And
Absolutely.
you
Wow.
just yeah, you just never know. Word of mouth is like I think one of the gold mines of the creative industry. So get connected with other writers, other authors, connect with like writing clubs in your community, wherever you're living. If it's maybe if you don't have one in your community, maybe it's on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that. Keep that in mind. um I would say definitely research. So like Red Sea, yes, they're good. They have like a month, weekly or fortnightly newsletter about writing and publishing and stuff like that.
Mm,
Amazon also has, I think they fully explain the process of self-publishing as well. So definitely do your research on that. That'll get, yeah, make time to make sure you're just doing your research, trying to understand things. Also, YouTube has so many people that give great advice. I remember this one lady. She was saying, something that helped her self-publishing journey was, connecting with Goodreads, that website Goodreads. Now
mm,
I tried to do that, but I think I just wasn't really interested anyway, so it didn't come out of nothing. But I think if you are interested in like connecting with other authors, Goodreads is the perfect avenue for you as well. Just research that. And then I would say take your time because it can feel very overwhelming. I think
mm.
definitely pace yourself, you know. Don't feel like you have to have it all figured out all at once because that's just impossible. Especially if this is new to you. You know, there are people who have years of experience in this field, but we just come up with like, oh, we can do this just now for now. But actually, no, you know, take your time. Um, and I would say definitely believe in your work. If you really believe in the story that you're telling, there is an audience for your work.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
Also, don't just think that once it's out, it's just gonna be people are just gonna flock to you. They, yeah, um
Marketing.
the big part about it is marketing and connect and yeah, distribution, really connecting with your audience. That's the biggest thing. But I think once you've created more of a community, once you research more, once you take your time and you're able to, you know, meet people, like I met Peter, so that's just a weird connection, you know, and like I'm
Absolutely.
hoping now that we can stay in touch. So you know, you just never know where connecting with people can take you, but just keep in mind that it might not always just be that you're gonna be the best selling author on Amazon, you know, as soon as you put your book out. There's work that needs to be done. There's even advertising that you need to pay for as well sometimes to get your book in, you know,
Absolutely.
out there in the wider world. And don't oh, that's the biggest thing. Don't expect family and friends to be your number one, not supporters. Like they'll support you as you're doing your thing. They love that you're doing
Mm.
your thing. But they
Yeah.
like to supporters in the sense, oh, they're gonna read your book and be like, oh, this is the most amazing thing I ever encountered in my life. You know, and I remember the lady you interviewed before, I forgot her name, of
Yeah.
the, I think the mystery. She said that her brother-in-law doesn't like her books. It's I think when family and friends, they know you, they've seen you. And that's not to say like my family and friends, like if you go on my Amazon, you would see some of my reviews and some of them are my family and friends, and I'm shocked by what this book meant to them, like some of the poems that they were really connected to. Even my mom, she's
Mm.
not a poetry reader, but there was one of the poems that she was just like, oh my gosh, this, she just felt so connected to. Now, but they're not my main audience. I think really as writers and creative people, really researching who is your target audience, who is your main audience. It
Yeah.
takes time, and that's something I'm still discovering and learning as well. But don't be discouraged if like family members or friends don't want to purchase the book. And I always, now I'm saying this to my, you know, my social media followers as well, like, you know, you may not be into poetry and that's fine, but you may know somebody who is. You know,
Yeah.
don't just say, oh yeah, this, just like my post, that's fine. No, like to get things out there, like you share Beyonce's post every single time. It's not to say that maybe, yeah, you are interested in her music, but you sharing it puts it in front of other people, so you have to keep thinking
Absolutely.
about that for your friends as well. Like this, I don't want to buy this book, or I can't buy this book, like actually can't purchase it. That's fine, but you can share. You know, you everyone knows somebody who might know somebody who might know somebody who will lead, you know, into more opportunities. So
Mm.
I hope that makes sense, but I hope that was
Absolutely.
encouraging to some people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge lot of advice you've given. Very lovely.
Mm.
Very educative
Yeah.
as well. And I'm hopeful
Yes.
that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. Now, would you like to recite a poem or two, just so we can have a brief idea and, a snip? into some of your works.
So maybe I'll read one of the poems. Yeah, poem 31. So that actually inspired the title.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
sitting with you. Sitting with you. I have always, and this one was inspired by, I like to tell the story about how it was inspired by Frank O'Hara's poem, Having a Coke with You, or Having a Coke,
Mm,
something like that. So he was a poet, a New York poet, and this is the kind of structure that his poem had. That was his poem, and it was so beautiful to see. It was just talking about just what it means to sit with somebody that he loves, just having a coke on a bench,
mm,
compared to just going to these big old grandiose kind of events. So
wow.
that's what inspired that. So I have always been obsessed with the stride of a woman because I always wanted that same stride, beautiful from the ankle up, just like the introduction to the female lead in a black and white film, or even a colored movie. I always thought my name sounded better if I was white. Brittany, Britney, Whitney, Britney, Veronica. Or I thought if my eyes made a nice curve in the corners and my hair was jet black with thick enough lips, I would be accepted by society, by boys maybe, or perhaps really accepted by myself. But you call me beautiful regardless. You've made me fierce in my infirmity, my flow. Sitting with you is like the time I floated in the ocean for the first time. Flowing with the waves, my body went up and down. I actually felt safe when I finally let go and allowed the ocean to be. It's being still when I'm sitting with you. Sitting with you is like the warm taste of hot cocoa running down my trachea at nightfall by the fireplace, if I had one. And if I did like hot cocoa, I don't very much. It sounds nice, like I should like it or something, but chocolate in liquid form and hot is confusing to me, just like your unfitting love. So tell me, what possesses someone to die for a stranger? People
Wow.
think I'm crazy or even stupid for believing such tales, but you've called me to be foolish to the wise, for what wisdom is subject to foolish ways misunderstood. Just like the intellect of my professor. I always hated schools. The lessons taught to me were vague, but I wasn't like the other girl over there who always had the right things to say. Yeah, but I wasn't like the other girl over there who always had the right things to say. She even walked so beautifully. Regardless, sitting with you is like Remembrance Day, dramatic and sorrowful, grateful and subtle, puzzling and audacious. Sitting with you is being simply me, is being read by you and read into you when I'm alone sitting with you. Now tell me, what drives a person to lay down his life for a stranger?
Wow.
It's so I could be here, sitting with you.
Wow.
So that
That's
was
such that's
that.
such an amazing recitation. I love the lines. I love the stanzas. I love the lyrics. They're quite interesting, and I love the way you recite the poem itself. Really made for an
Oh,
interesting
thank you.
discussion. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And in case we have some viewers who would love to get a copy of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
So it's available on Amazon. You can get it, the UK, Canada, America. I think I also have France. You can also get it. Yeah. So on Amazon, just search up "So I'll Stay Sitting with You," Britny Virginia, and you should find it.
That's great. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Britney's books directly on Amazon.
Yes.
So thank you so
Yes.
much, Britney, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having
Thank
this
you.
conversation with you.
It's been great. Thank you so much, Peter.
Absolutely.